Welcome to the Winged Wheel Podcast, the number one source for news, analysis, and discussion on the Detroit Red Wings, the NHL, and all things hockey. Here are your hosts, Ryan Hanna, Brad Crisco, and Evan Lopsinger.
I'm not one to usually involve myself with get-rich-quick schemes, but I think I have found a foolproof one. And again, I'm not a big sports bettor either, but if you put a lot of money on all the teams that Detroit needs to lose any given night, you are going to win a lot of money and retire early.
It's so predictable to watch to the point where people get frustrated when we post the here's who you need to hope wins tonight, guides every day because we are in the actual playoff push right now. They get mad because they're like, the opposite always happens. I'm like, yeah, welcome to the last decade, man. Like, I don't know what you want me to tell you. I had a buddy to that end say, and he's big into sports betting. He's like, Ryan, he always asks me for picks. I'm like, you know what? Whatever I tell you, it's just the opposite's going to happen. That's the way it goes. That's why I don't do it. From time to time, I'll tell him something. My biggest shout was calling ASP's first goal, and he listened. So he made a nice chunk of change off of that. But regardless, he was like, for all the time that you did the podcast, had you just put, $10-20 down on the Red Wings, losing every single game for the duration of how long you've been doing this podcast, I'd be retired, you'd be retired, your mom would be retired. Like, it's the easiest. Yeah, it's 100%. Just bet against whatever is in the Red Wings' best interest. That's what's happening right now.
Well, ties are always the best payouts and the toughest to predict. When I saw the graphic go up yesterday where it was, here's all the teams that need to win to benefit the Red Wings, except for Montreal-Boston, that game doesn't matter as long as it doesn't go to overtime. You could have put your life savings that game was going to overtime, and guess what?
All $1.13 of it was what I would have put it on that. I didn't even check. I just knew. We just knew. We all knew. I think the only small miracle is that, technically speaking, a Montreal win was better because if you're going with the mindset of keeping the team below you or just like closest to you down and not worrying about catching the team ahead, the only thing that could have been different is if Montreal had lost, and that would have been a little bit worse for Detroit. But still, a 3-point game is by far the worst outcome. And yeah, here we are.
It was one of those ones where I think there was 5 to 10 minutes left in each of those games. I went and checked the scores, and I just laughed. That's all you can do, because otherwise I'd have cried.
Columbus and Ottawa have one regulation loss in their last 10 games combined?
Yeah, so 20 games between those two teams, and they have one regulation loss.
They are 13-1-6.
That's so stupid. That is so stupid. And I believe they are in that span third across the entire NHL in points percentage. We're borrowing from later in the episode here, but why that is important is that those are the two teams immediately behind Detroit in the playoff race. They have around an 800 points percentage.
Columbus would be first in the Pacific by 4 points. They're outside the playoffs.
Yeah, that's tied for third in the NHL in points percentage across the entire league. That is so dumb.
The Red Wings have obviously been horrible lately, but any other year, we'd be pretty confident they're going to hit, even with a skid towards the end of the season, they probably get to 94, 95 points, which is still good enough to make the playoffs. What was the cutoff for points for 8th seed as of last night, Ryan?
Oh, today it went up to 100 points. That's the projection.
Oh, it's back up to 100
back up
now.
to 100, yeah.
Oh, it's following the price of a barrel of oil.
You just subtract a little bit, but yeah, it's probably marked directly to oil somehow. We don't do politics, but somehow that it's affecting the Red Wings playoff odds. Anyways, as you can imagine, what we're going to talk about in this episode of the Winged Wheel Podcast. Welcome to the show. Here to talk to you about all things Detroit Red Wings hockey, the world of the NHL, and lots more. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Hanna.
I'm Brad Crisco.
And I'm Evan.
On this episode of the Winged Wheel Podcast, we have a lot to hit you with. It is Detroit's win against Calgary and all the big storylines that came from that. Some interesting comments from Patrick Kane afterwards, big performances up and down the lineup, and the ramifications of that. We have some early returnees to the Red Wings practice and how Andrew Copp may be a, knight in shining armor for the Red Wings following suit that David Perron established at first. So that is a potential storyline the Red Wings are looking at. The playoff race, the standings update, which we gave you a little bit of a sample of just now. A lot of other small Red Wings news and a lot of league news. We'll see what we can get into before overtime. Quickly before that, Winged Wheel Podcast Night at the LCA, Saturday, March 21st. This is your last chance to get your tickets. wingedwheelpodcast.com/Red Wings. We posted a picture of the co-branded limited edition Detroit Red Wings Centennial and Winged Wheel Podcast hats that are given to everyone who purchases a ticket. Check that out online, or if you're watching on YouTube, I'll put it on the video now so you can see what the hats look like, a little sneak peek for you there. So your tickets not only get you that hat, but they also get you a ticket into the Red Wings versus Bruins game, which is poised to be the biggest game in a decade for the Red Wings. And that's at a discounted rate. And you get access to the pregame live recording of the Wind Wheel podcast at Little Caesars Arena, featuring Ken Daniels, lead announcer of the Detroit Red Wings. Every ticket represents a donation to the Jamie Daniels Foundation. You get all of that and lots more. So again, wingedwheelpodcast.com/Red Wings, or go to the link in the description. Also, Evan, I believe it is the March Madness bracket for our Patreon supporters.
That's right.
If you're a patron in the appropriate tier, you'll have received a message. Fill out your March Madness brackets.
You wouldn't know it's March because there's still a blizzard outside.
Every day is a snow globe, although poised to have some pretty good weather for the podcast event. So fingers crossed on that one. So the Red Wings back home, they had Calgary in town. And like we mentioned, Calgary was the softest remaining team on their calendar for the rest of the season. It sounds silly to say a game that was a 2-point game. This isn't a 4-point game against an Atlantic opponent or even an Eastern opponent. This is a non-playoff Western Conference team. And that was a must win for Detroit. Because you look at what's happening above and below them in the standings, which we talked about at the Open. You need to take a free 2 points wherever you can get a free 2 points. I usually don't like declaring things must wins like that because, I mean, if it's technically not, then it's technically not, but that one was a must win. And Detroit got it done in very fun fashion, but I'll tell you, that start was not inspiring. Thank God for Dominik Shine.
Oh, man, that first period, it was one of those moments. Nothing imminent had happened in the 10 minutes leading up to make you believe it, but we all knew Calgary was scoring in the last couple minutes of that period, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
You could just write that one, not even in pen. You could write that one in the stars. It was happening. And their effort did not look inspired to that point in the game. But then the second period rolled around, and let me just say, thank you for Patrick Kane.
There's like a lot of conversation about Patrick Kane and, what's he able to do at this stage in his career. And we've been saying, like, he's being asked to play minutes that he really shouldn't be playing. Like, that's not the designs of Patrick Kane on this team. But it's like he willed himself in that team, one of a few guys, but willed that team into winning. Patrick Kane had a great play on a back check to break up a scoring chance. Like, Patrick Kane was like, I am not missing these damn playoffs. Like, stop messing around. I don't care who's out. We're winning this game against the Calgary 2026 Flames. It looked like he was just sheer willing that team to the victory.
The kind of, we're not losing to these guys.
Yes.
Type performance. There was actually one other Red Wing who I thought had his best game as a Red Wing. Emmitt Finnie was everywhere that game. He was an animal on the puck. So many turnovers. His goal wasn't even all that impressive on his part, just a backdoor tap in, but I felt like he earned that goal 5 times over. He was super, super noticeable in a good way, which is good in the middle of this referendum that we keep talking about, like which jerseys are going to turn into guys. And man, he put a statement for himself on that game.
Centerman Emmitt Finnie is, I think, important to note there. And I think that has a big, aspect to why he was so good. And it looked like he was flying around. And I was a little concerned. I like when I saw that Emmitt Finnie had to be played at center, we talked about the possibility leading up to this of like, do you do it? That's what he played in the dub. And, he did really well. He had high-end line mates, but it's a different story in the NHL. And we've seen how Emmitt Finnie has had very normal, very predictable struggles up and downs throughout the season. I was like, is this too much to ask him? And he leaned on what he does best, and it looked like he wasn't overthinking things. He used his speed. He drove the net. I understand what you're saying, Brad. Like, it wasn't all that fancy of a goal. I thought that was a great goal from Emmitt Finnie because everything leading up to it was gorgeous, which we'll talk about. But he did the right thing. He got to the hard area, went hard to the net, and created the chaos leading up to that play and finished it. And he's a kid who's gripped his stick too tight as expectations were placed on him because of merit, because he put himself into that position. And that's when I think you saw Emmitt Finnie at his lowest. So I was super impressed to see Emmitt Finnie just kind of let it all go and just embrace the moment. And yeah, he was all over your screen as you were watching that game.
Well, it's desperation mode for the Wings right now. They have no other centers available. They realized Emmitt Finnie had played some center in junior. He's got the foot speed to do it, and he's got the tenacity to do it. So why not try it? And I think the experiment worked out really, really well. They're going to have to go back to it again. Worked one game against a bad team. Let's see how it goes against the biggest 3 games of the season, or, the season is in the balance these next 3 games. I think it can work in the short term. We'll see. But through one game, I thought it was excellent.
So I think we'll open with the game description. We'll open with Dominik Shine, who it wasn't. I don't know if you want to call it dirty, or certainly wasn't clean, but runs Brzustewicz into the end boards. It looked like, I don't know whether he was falling. That's as much grease as you can give it. But if that had happened to a Red Wings defenseman, I would have wanted someone to scrap. But Dominik Shine runs Brzustewicz into the end boards, and it was, who was it? Lomberg and Pospisil?
Yep.
So he has his choice between the two of them, takes Pospisil and holds his own in the fight, and they go down and up once more. And I think that was an important moment. The Red Wings kind of needed a little bit of a spark, and it translated later. But I think we want to talk about it, Brad, before we do the rest of the game recap. We talked about Patrick Kane, willing this team to winning. And if you want a little bit of an insight into what Patrick Kane's like in the room, or, how much he knows about what it takes to get a winning team going, he really appreciated what Dominik Shine brought to the depth of the Red Wings lineup, and in that moment specifically.
Yeah, it's been a talking point with the Red Wings for years about how there just isn't anybody on the team who does this kind of thing. Like, how many when was the last actual fight you remember a Red Wing having of any?
Well, Simon Evanson beat the brakes off Dylan Cousins.
Yes, that was fun.
But that's our noted goon. We can't have.
That's a free square.
Yeah, exactly.
So Kane pointing out how good it was to see Shine doing something like that, and how it's needed, and how it, reading between the lines, just fires up the team and gets them going. I don't think that's a nothing statement. Obviously, first and foremost, that's a compliment to Dominik Shine. Like, to put it bluntly, if an AHL jobber who's comes up and one of the greatest American hockey players of all time is going, yeah, I like what that guy did, that's a hell of a testament. But also, I think that was a bit of a shot at the rest of the team going, hey, if he can do it, the rest of you been here all year. Why can't you do it?
Well, I think it's very obvious, right? Like, we talk about the bottom 6. If they're not going to score goals, which they have proven they mostly cannot.
Shine also scored a goal this game.
Yeah.
I meant pre-Grand Rapids being transplanted in Detroit.
Yeah.
It's like, make yourself a part of the game.
Yeah.
If you're not going to score and produce, find ways to impact the game. And the jerseys really haven't done that at all. And you've been begging some of them to just do it. They've got the natural gifts to do these things. And up comes Dominik Shine, just walks the edge at all times. And he got the Wings right back into the game. Like, for me, that's exactly what Detroit needs on the bottom line.
I think we have to start referring to these as sweaters.
Yeah.
Because jersey has just become such a casual slur towards the Red Wings bottom 6, and everybody immediately understands it.
It is the designated pejorative to cardio merchant, which was getting worn out. And the fact that it came from Todd, and it just came from such a visceral place, like, he was so fed up with them. Yeah, that word is now a pejorative for sure. So again, to repeat what you both said, Brad and Evan, like, if Patrick Kane and his focus on offense and winning is saying, hey, this depth guy who came up from Grand Rapids is coming in, putting a spark into the team. Is great for the bench to see a fight. It's great for them to get going. And then he's the one to respond in the second period to tie the game. Alex DeBrincat finds Patrick Kane on the breakaway, and I love that casual move he does where it looks like he just places the puck in the top corner. It doesn't even look like a snapshot or a wrist shot. It just looks like he guides it there with his stick. And it's not an easy shot, but he makes it look so casual, which is what fools the goalie. Ties the game. Pretty soon after, it was like 4 minutes later, Emmitt Finnie converts on a... Like, you should slow that down and play some like sultry jazz music to that play. It ends up being Lucas Raymond finding Albert Johansson, who sees the puck, intentionally receives it between his legs, one touch backhand pass to Emmitt Finnie, who was driving the net, who one touch puts it in the net. Just, that was artistry. It was gorgeous. And that was Albert Johansson, who does this from time to time.
He only scores highlight reel plays.
Only scores on highlight reel plays. Like, he only puts together... He either shuts down Connor McDavid or assumes his soul into his very being as a hockey player.
Very Mario Lemieux 2002 Olympics-esque. Just unbelievable. I only have remembered 3 plays Albert Johansson has made his entire career because he's just the type of player who does his job effectively and you don't notice him. But 2 of them are out of this world. It almost makes me upset. Like, buddy, why don't you try this stuff more?
You know,
he's got a Ouija board on the bench.
That's why Edmonton keeps losing. He just steals their hockey spirit from either Draisaitl or...
That's all the Etsy witches are busy with Edmonton.
That I honestly credit. And Johansson's another guy who I thought he's been good in 2026, like the calendar year. He's been progressively better, I feel like, as this season's gone on. But since the Olympic break, I've noticed him a lot more. And I think the stability on the back end has really benefited him since Falk came in. So credit to Johansson. That was a gorgeous play. Just the whole team up the ice. And then not long after, it was like a minute 30 after, Patrick Kane again. This time, Alex DeBrincat with a beautiful pass to find Kane. So DeBrincat and Kane connecting again. That was Confer's first of his 2 assists as well. That was a secondary assist for him. 3-1 Detroit. Kane second of the game, and it was looking really good for the Red Wings. The steam came out of them a little bit. The momentum after a blue line turnover by Simon Edvinsson ended up being a Matt Coronado goal. Not the kind of play you were looking for there, for sure, because I think in a game where this was an offensive slugfest in the end, but not because both teams were just powerhouses, for sure. You have like a beat up, completely, patchwork Detroit Red Wings team versus one of the worst teams in the NHL who had traded away more players in the Flames. But still, you don't want to lose that momentum and that offensive ability when it was looking hard to come by. Detroit survives with just 1 goal against there, so it becomes 3-2. And then Moritz Seider on the power play ties his career-high 9th goal of the season from DeBrincat and Compher on the power play. Nice pick of the spot by Mo. Really good wrist shot there to find his spot through the screen, through the bodies.
Yeah, he took his time coming in from the point on that one till the very last moment, and just the term dart gets thrown around for goals like that, and that's what it looked like.
Yeah.
Literally picked the bullseye and hit it right in the center.
And then Dominik Shine gets the empty net goal to make it 5-2. Great to see him rewarded for his efforts in the game, and the Red Wings with like I said, a must win. It was a huge, huge win. John Gibson with a big solid win there. That was his 25th win of the year, which I believe is his most since 2018-2019, where he had 26. And Ken read out a stat. Ken was doing the Amazon. It was funny. Ken was doing the Amazon Prime broadcast, and obviously the FanDuel broadcast is still going. But Ken read a stat saying Gibson has allowed 3 or fewer in, I believe it was 21 of his last 23 games, and the Wings have won 13 of them. So if you want to know the issue for the Red Wings,
Jesus.
Yeah, it's been offense, which is not a surprise to anyone who's been paying attention. But Gibson with another solid victory there, and another performance that gave the Red Wings all they needed to get the win. So the offense showed up this time. The Red Wings took advantage of a soft target, and the first period we thought that's it.
We're done.
And after that, it was like, okay, that's all you could have asked for there, and that's the building block that you need to go on for momentum. Massive victory. So, After that, the Red Wings, that was Monday night, so they've had a couple days off. They'll be back at it on Thursday. And in the meantime, there's been some big news. Andrew Copp is practicing for the Red Wings. Todd McLellan said that Andrew Copp is chomping at the bit to get back, and he is progressing quicker than his anticipated timeline. Nothing is certain yet, but I think there's a possibility he could play Thursday against Montreal or Saturday against Boston. Not a certainty, and even if he doesn't, it looks like he's projecting to be back sooner than his original timeline. Any amount of games earlier for Andrew Copp to return, I think it's not going to be a silver bullet for the Red Wings, but just one thing to make it a little less bad, and it's that much more hope for Detroit to tread water in these games, like you said, Evan, that's going to make or break their season.
Well, with Copp back, you have Copp, Comfer, Casper, Finnie as your 4 potential centermen, which doesn't sound all that bad.
It is a tongue twister for you, though.
Yes. Given the state of the Red Wings right now, that really that's a big improvement.
That's so funny because you said that. I'm like, wow, that sounds terrible. If this was January and you told me that, I'd be like, cool, what happened? And how close are we to...
We traded Dylan Larkin. We are slotting in Gavin McKenna.
Pretty much. But yeah, as of right now, no, we take those. And there's no pressure, right? Like with the knee injury that Copp had and the knee injury that Larkin has, whenever those guys get back in the lineup, they're not going to be 100%. But no one is this time of year, especially the Red Wings who are playing right now. Most of them aren't 100%, I'd say. So,
with enough Toradol, you can get close.
Oh, so that's where the first bit of positive news came in for Detroit. So you had the win, you have the positive news. MBN is skating around. He's still considered day-to-day, but you hope he can slot back in soon. No change on Rasmussen or Larkin, but that's where the Red Wings are at. So kept themselves in the race. They had one night of a mixed bag of results in their favor, and then yesterday was every single result went against them. It was Columbus, the Islanders, and the 3-point game, like we mentioned, with Montreal and Boston. So yeah, they need whatever good news they can get. And then on the defensive side of things, they're pretty happy with their split right now. And based on what Todd McLellan said and signaled, we might be seeing ASP go down to Grand Rapids sometime soon. Maybe by the time you're listening, he'll be down in Grand Rapids, but just seems like that's where the fit's going to be. That's where he was poised to go. Not surprising, probably the right call at this point, I'd say.
Anything to get him reps at this point, really, I think is the main goal. Again, with all the injuries at forward, I'm still a little surprised they never went 11-7. I really felt like that was a layup for the state of the roster. So McLellan must be really nervous putting ASP out there right now to not even want to shelter him as a 7th D in power play 2 type of situation. So leads me to believe he's not going to play the rest of the season in all likelihood, barring injury. So yeah, get him in Grand Rapids and give him some reps.
Because, if you do get to a point where you have to use ASP, you don't want him coming in completely cold. And maybe his time in Grand Rapids will instill that confidence. And then, all going well, although it sounds unfair to ASP, ideally you don't need him for the rest of the year because things are solid and stable on the blue line. It's not surprising. It's the right call. We talked about it plenty. ASP was on this team because of merit, but he stayed on this team because this team had absolutely abhorrent defensive depth on the right side. And that wasn't his problem. That was a Red Wings problem. So he really should have been in Grand Rapids for a lot of reasons for his development earlier in the year. And so obviously he wants to stay up and he'll be back up. There's not a knock against the guy as a prospect or anything. I'm just as excited about him as ever. This is a normal thing. It just looks more stretched out and worse because he was kept up because the Red Wings had no one else to go to. So we'll see how and when he actually goes down, but that's the expectation as of now. And again, the Red Wings have 2 big games upcoming. I'm going to say it, the biggest games of their season so far until the next ones that are, but it's Montreal at home on Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern. That's on the 19th. And then Saturday, March 21st, Winged Podcast Night at the LCA, 8 p.m. Eastern, also at Little Caesars Arena. That's the Boston Bruins. Montreal's important because they're right there with them in the Atlantic standings, but Boston is even closer, and that's a direct wildcard competitor as of now. At the time of recording, things change rapidly, but those 2 games, you need, at the very least, the floor there is you cannot lose 4 points of ground across those 2 games. You cannot walk away 0 for 4. Even 1 of 4 points is going to look really tough to come back from because of, who you're playing. You need to make sure that you walk away scraping together some points because those are 4-point games, the both of them.
I don't like over-exaggerating, but I really do get this sense, gut feeling more than anything, that if the Red Wings don't get more than a point or 2 in these next 3 games, given who they're playing, like that is the writing on the wall. Just because it's the 3 teams directly around them in the Atlantic Division. 1 team ahead, 1 team tied, 1 team chasing. Boston with the tiebreaker. Like, that could be it. If you do not gain points against these teams in each of these games, that's 3 more nails in the coffin. That's already a little too close to the ground, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So, we've seen it in previous years. We go back years to the doubleheader against Ottawa where we knew going into those 2 games, this is it. Like, this is Custard's last stand. And they got the doors blown off in both games, which obviously how they lost mattered, but they collected 0 points, and that was the end of that season. I hate saying it considering how many games are left, but this really does feel like it.
I think for me, if I had to pick like one must-win game out of the 3, I think it's Ottawa, because Ottawa has 2 games in hand. Yeah, they're 5 points back, but if you can beat them, you kind of pull the ladder up behind you, right? Yeah, you still got to deal with Columbus, who's unbeatable apparently. But if you can beat the teams behind you and sort of end their season and create separation from wild card 2 and those sitting outside, I think that's where I'm going. Like, yeah, it obviously would be huge to beat Boston, who you're tied with. It would be great to beat Montreal, who have a game in hand and are 2 points ahead of you as of right now, like to bring yourself a little bit closer to them. But if you can make the gap between in the playoffs and out of the playoffs just a little bit wider, I think that makes me feel a little bit better anyways.
This is gut check time for the Red Wings. Like, you need to, however it shakes out, I completely agree with your assessment, Evan. Like, if you had to boil it down. And I actually want to put out there very quickly, I think on last episode, and I tweeted it in one of the score watching guides as well, I said that the Red Wings don't technically control their destiny, which was wildly incorrect. I was looking at just the math of it, and like right now, Columbus, if they win their game at hand, they will pass Detroit. And that's what I meant by it, but that was completely ignoring the fact that Detroit plays Columbus. They play Montreal and Boston. So to that end, technically speaking, they do control their destiny. And that's what I want to get at here, which is that the Red Wings, yeah, they have their injuries, and yes, they came at the worst time, and they all stacked at the worst moment, and you would have traded health throughout the rest of the season to make sure that you don't lose your top 2 centers now and more. But it's do or die time. You need to make sure you go in. You're not going in saying, all right, boys, let's walk away with 1 point in our next 3 games for 3 total points. Obviously, that's not what they're thinking. But you need to go in every single game and fight tooth and nail and just make it so that you are overwhelming in your effort, in your energy, and your, mentality and attitude toward the game to make sure that you give yourself the best chance possible to steal a win against a team that's healthier and playing better right now, to take a point off a team who looked like they had you down and out. You have to, because those 3 games, 3 Atlantic Division foes, you're going to be hard pressed to catch back up to them or build that gap later if you want to keep them out of the playoffs. So this is it. And I'm laughing as I say it because for the millionth time this episode, this is it until the next set of this is it, because there aren't very many. I can count like 2 or 3 games that kind of aren't, 4-point games or big impact games for the rest of the season. And then you have to look at those as, well, we got to take points off the New York Rangers because they suck, right? Like, this is it for the Red Wings, and this is how it's going to be until someone else above them falls off and the Red Wings start winning like the rest of the teams are, which while they're injured probably isn't going to happen. So where there's a will, there's a way, and it's going to be all will right now if the Red Wings are going to do this. More on the Red Wings, more on the playoff push. First, a quick word from our sponsors back after this. This time of year, once the season gets to the really important parts, everything speeds up. Nights fill up, routines get a little messier, and if you're trying to eat well, That's usually one of the first things to slide, and that's why Tempo's been such a good fit for us. Tempo sends fresh, chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals right to your door, and they're ready in just 2 minutes. So instead of defaulting to takeout after a late game or piecing together some random snack plate at 10:30, you've got real food ready to go. A couple that we especially liked were the chicken and spicy pineapple salsa and the Korean barbecue pulled pork. The chicken had a nice kick without overpowering the flavor, and the pulled pork was just one of those solid, flavorful, filling kind of meals that actually feels worth eating after a long day. What I also like is that it doesn't get repetitive. We've got 20 new recipes every week, and whether you're looking for something protein-packed, something lighter, or just something better than, drive-through regret, there's enough variety to keep it useful. For a limited time, Tempo is offering our listeners 60% off your first box. Go to tempomeals.com/wingedwheel. That's tempomeals.com/wingedwheel for 60% off your first box. tempomeals.com/wingedwheel. Rules and restrictions may apply. When the season gets deeper and every game starts to feel that much bigger, you notice everything a lot more. The little mistakes, bad bounces, the pressure of a playoff push, and sometimes the stuff you see in the mirror too. For a lot of guys, thinning hair becomes one of those things that's hard to ignore once it's on your radar, and that's where Hims comes in. Hims provides access to prescription hair loss treatments with ingredients that work, including chews, oral medications, serums, and sprays, through licensed medical providers, and if you're prescribed, you can access ingredients that can help stop further hair loss and regrow hair in as little as 3 to 6 months. You complete an online intake form, answer a series of questions, and a licensed medical provider reviews your information. If you're prescribed, treatment ships directly to you. Just personalized care that works on your schedule, whether you're watching a midweek game or sweating out the stretch run looking at the standings. So if hair loss has been on your mind just as much as securing a wildcard spot, this is a way to actually address the thing that you can control instead of just hoping it turns around on its own. For simple online access to personalized and affordable care for hair loss, ED, weight loss, and more, visit hims.com/wingedwheel. That's hims.com/wingedwheel for your free online visit. hims.com/wingedwheel. Featured products include compounded drug products which the FDA does not approve or verify for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. See website for full details, restrictions, and important safety information. Individual results may vary based on studies of topical and oral minoxidil and finasteride. All right, welcome back. We talked before the break about what the Red Wings have upcoming. Let's give an update on the actual standings as they are right now. So, like we mentioned, Detroit is currently at the time of recording this, everything's going to flip top to bottom. Boston will have won 10 more games. Buffalo will have won 20 more games by the time you listen. But as of right now, Detroit is in the second wildcard spot, 82 points in 68 games. Boston, with an identical record, 82 points in 68 games. They're also 37, 23, and 8, but they have the regulation wins tiebreaker 27 to Detroit's 26, which is why they're in the first wildcard spot. And then in the Atlantic Division seeds, you have Montreal, 84 points, and they have a game in hand on Detroit. They have 67 games played. And then with 2 games in hand on Detroit, you have Tampa Bay in the second wildcard spot, 66 games played, 86 points. And then Buffalo, who is 9-1 in their last 10, 90 points in 68 games played. Behind Detroit, you have Columbus, who's just 1 point back with a game in hand. You have Ottawa, who is 5 points back with 2 games in hand. And then you have Philly, who is 8 points back with 2 games in hand. It's tight. Detroit's 4-4-2 in their last 10 feels like 1-9.
That is way better than it felt like.
Because that's what everyone else has made it seem like. Columbus, like Evan and I were saying at the top, Columbus 6-0-4, Ottawa 7-1-2. 13-1-6 in the last 20 combined games between those two teams. Boston's 4-3-3. Thank goodness they faltered a bit so that at least Detroit could catch them. I don't know. They didn't run away. Montreal is 5-3-2. They lost a few games in there. Tampa 3-7, and they're still that far ahead of Detroit. And then Buffalo 9-1. And then other teams who could be in the mix here, Pittsburgh and the Islanders, they both have 83 points, and the Jackets could catch them. And those teams are both very relevant. If the Islanders fall to the wildcard spots, that's actually more advantageous for Detroit because Detroit has the tiebreaker over them as well as Columbus for regulation wins. Pittsburgh has 29 regulation wins to Detroit's 26. So if they fall to the wildcard spots, that's actually worse. Although you're getting a little galaxy braining here.
Listen, we've seen the Red Wings miss the playoffs on a tiebreaker. There is no galaxy braining. It's happened.
The Red Wings right now, tied with the Boston Bruins, are on a, you were right, Brad, by the math, maybe not by the models, but by the math, a 99-point projection. So we're hovering anywhere from 98 to 100 points. That's the playoff cutoff right now.
You know what? The Red Wings get 98 points and miss the playoffs. I'm not. Be mad at Gary Bettman. Don't be mad at it. Don't be mad at the Red Wings. Be mad at Gary Bettman.
I already have in pen an off-season topic is the point scoring system in this league. Mind you, Gary Bettman loves this. This is great entertainment for him.
Oh, it keeps everybody watching into the 82nd game of the year.
When you were talking about a pen there, I thought that joke was going a whole different way after last episode's Unabomber discussion.
Whoa, Brad. Whoa. Spoilers. Jeez. You can't let people know what happens in the Patreon exclusive discussion.
Oh, that's the teaser.
Yeah.
That's the teaser trailer. If you want to hear Evan's thoughts.
I took a turn.
Do you know the Red Wings have the least amount of goals scored for in the Atlantic?
That is the least surprising thing I've heard today.
Yeah, of all these shocking stats, that one, where are they in the league in goals for right now? I shudder to think. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's not, it's certainly not good, but it's not the worst in the league, which is good. But yeah, in the Atlantic, they are by far the least. They have one fewer goal than the Florida Panthers.
At the beginning of the year, exactly who we thought they'd be right behind in that stat.
Hey, we would have accepted. Although, with Barkov out,
you can twist the stats. Just be like, the Red Wings have one less goal for than the Florida Panthers. Everybody, wow, they are a offensive powerhouse.
Are you saying that before or after Barkov ruined the season of practice?
I'm just saying it, and that's all I'm saying. Context be damned.
You mentioned, Evan, at the top, the Anaheim Ducks leading the Pacific Division, 77 points. They would be behind all of the teams I listed in Detroit's playoff race, including the Ottawa Senators with 77 points. They wouldn't even have, because they have Ottawa has a game in hand on them. It doesn't work like that way, but that's how much worse it is.
I have nothing to back this up, but vibes. Tell me if you guys feel like the same thing. I remember for the last bunch of years, a good amount of years actually, the Red Wings were in the West. It felt like the West was comically better than the East. And then the Red Wings jumped over and it flipped.
Right then, yeah. That is what it feels like.
Annoying.
There was always the South-Least division in the Eastern Conference.
But even that was about when Washington started getting really damn good.
Yeah. So I told you the cutoff was at 98, 99 points in the East. Any guess on the number in the West? What the second wildcard team is projected?
87.
87 points. 87 points.
The Red Wings would have made the playoffs how many times in the last few years with that?
It was six wins. That's a 6 wins. You can get into the playoffs in the National Hockey League with 6 fewer wins from one conference to another. And this isn't I'm not a big believer in, 1 through 16 across both conferences. I think the conferences matter. I don't love the current playoff system. I'd rather go 1 to 8 in terms of conference seeding, but still whatever. But this year is like, is this ever going to happen again? I honestly don't, this feels like the biggest aberration in the playoff race I've ever seen.
One of the funny quirks that could come out of this playoff format with the way everything's going is Utah finishes wild card 1, goes into the Pacific bracket, goes all the way to the conference finals as the road team in every series while having more points than every team they would play. Because they are right on the cusp, I think, of passing Anaheim in points. So they could, as wild card 1, play in the Pacific bracket with more points than every team in the Pacific.
If they did conference seedings, Vegas would be a 7th seed right now, and they would play Dallas in the first round. I did not realize that Vegas had 14 overtime losses.
They've kind of stumbled.
That's terrible.
I don't even, we have so much to talk about. We don't have time to dive into this, but I've never been a bigger proponent of either the 3-2-1 system or just go to the straight, NBA style win or loss system, period. Because this whole, a 2-point game all of a sudden turns into a 3-point game thing. It's excruciating to watch.
It makes the 50 points that Vancouver has even more embarrassing because you get to play teams in the Western Conference frequently.
The East is just crushing the West this year as well, which is pulling more points over, obviously. And at some point, I feel like that guy who, when LeBron turned 30 or 31, he posted, he's like, well, LeBron just turned 31, so there can only be so much longer where this, BS keeps going with LeBron dominating, and he's doing it at age 41 or whatever. So I say this knowing that, but at some point, one of these teams has to fall off. And I don't even care. Buffalo is so far out of reach. I don't care about them. But at some point, the Jackets have to lose. At some point, the Senators have to lose. At some point, the Flyers are 6-3-1 in their last 10.
Ryan, we've talked about the monkey pot, buddy.
No, look, I don't care.
If there's a cluster of teams from 5 to 10 and you're saying one of them has to fall off, you know who it's going to be now that you've said that.
Detroit's already fallen off. You can't hurt me. As of right now, they aren't in, like, the Blue Jackets could pass Detroit.
I'll
for
say
a playoff
this.
spot.
How many fingers do you have on the panic button right now?
It's my palm. Like I have like
okay.
it's the heel of my palm, and I'm ready to just drive through.
Okay, you're right there.
Yeah, I'm gonna blow up my
right
shoulder
there.
pressing this thing.
I've got a
Calgary, and this isn't Detroit. It is Detroit's fault, but it's the Calgary game. Detroit did what they needed to do. It's just everything happening around them is insane.
Well, that just really goes back to the point of the Red Wings need to handle their own business.
That's right.
They can't be looking at everybody else. We will.
Yeah.
We will, because we hate ourselves. But the Red Wings just got to go out there and get points. Doesn't matter how. Honestly, I don't care. They play the worst games. They could be the worst looking team going into the playoffs. I don't care.
Oh, yeah.
Just make it happen however you have to.
The Red Wings aren't going to go out and make it look good. They just don't have the personnel to make it look good. Run the other team's defensemen to the end boards. Cheat. I don't know. Like unscrew the screws in the chairs that they sit in the dressing room. So they like whatever you got to do. Yeah, just
Find the thermostat for the away team's room. Crank it to 100. Do what you got to do.
First intermission, then crank it down to 30. Like, who cares? Yeah,
the Senior A special right there.
Oh, God, yeah. We've lost our minds a little bit here. That's what every fan watching the Red Wings feels like, watching the other teams just constantly win and turn 3-point games around them. All right, other NHL and Red Wings news and notes here, I should say. I want to give a little bit more to Finnie at center. I think we'll have more time for that as the season goes on and we get into the offseason. Is that found money? Was that always part of Finnie's path? Or is that just like, let's wait and see because it was one moment?
Everything with Finnie this year is found money. There's no other way to put it. 2 years removed, 7th round pick. One of the key contributors in this playoff chase. Oh boy, what a statement that is. He's been really good. Like I said, I think that game against Calgary was his best game as a Red Wing. He has all the tools and intangibles to be a center in the NHL. If this playoff hunt goes well, we probably need him at wing. And that's not an indictment on him. He's been doing it well. That's we need so much more than him. Dylan Larkin and Andrew Copp and JT Compher continuing to play well, because that's the formula to get in. And I don't want Emmitt Finnie on the fourth line. So he's more valuable in a perfect scenario playing left wing up the lineup. But given current circumstances, yes, this has found money.
Even if it's just for a little bit here, like down the stretch, he has a little bit of a Marco Kasper flash. You don't want it to be the case, and you do laugh that you have to say at this point in the season he's a key contributor and a crucial cog. But yeah, I was happy to see it.
If he plays center down the stretch, goes a point per game, and gets sent down to Grand Rapids next November, but the Red Wings make the playoffs, he's an all-time legend.
Oh, yeah. We'll take it.
I think where I land on it is, if this goes well for Finnie at center, you can kind of plug and play when you need to with him. And I think that makes him more valuable, right? Like, he can play up and down the lineup and fit in, and then you can move him around. You can play him at wing when everybody's healthy, and then you can slide him to center if you need to get him going or need to raise the floor the rest of the forward lines. Like, I think any way you look at this, it's a net positive for the Red Wings and for Emmitt Finnie.
Is Emmitt Finnie what we hoped Joe Veleno would be?
Yeah, a little bit, maybe. Like, really good skater. You hope he kind of brings that energy, flies around, impacts the game that way. I'm not sure I see the exact same play style. I see Finnie as more of a prototypical energy guy compared to what we wanted Joe Veleno to be. But once we understood that Joe Veleno was never going to be the kind of player that got the exceptional status back in his younger days, that's what we wanted him to be. Yeah, I don't think that's unfair to say.
And he's already done more.
Poor Joe Veleno's not even here catching strays.
He plays for Montreal now. He's the enemy.
That's true. Other good news for the Red Wings out in the world of prospects, Eddie Yenborg, his season wraps up with Timrå in the SHL and is now available to join the AHL Grand Rapids Griffins on an amateur tryout, so he can be loaned to the Griffins because the SHL season is over for the rest of their year, which great timing for them. Obviously, great for Red Wings fans and for the Red Wings because you want to see what he can do in North America. But boy, does Grand Rapids, with every player that Detroit poaches from them, it gets harder and harder to keep that consistency. So excited to see that. And he signs his 3-year entry-level contract. Yenborg has been a revelation for the Red Wings since being drafted last year in the second round, 44th overall. Just continuously has proven that his offensive ceiling is higher and higher than what was analyzed and anticipated beforehand. So really pumped. Some clarification, he can go to the Grand Rapids for the rest of this year, and that's where he's assigned. But for next season, because he wasn't a first-round pick, and on the nature of the SHL-NHL agreement, it's either NHL or SHL for him as it stands right now. He can't go to the AHL unless something changes in terms of like a release or anything happening behind the scenes in terms of an agreement. But his SHL team has his contract for the next year. So unless he makes the big club in the NHL, as of right now, there's no AHL possibility. So just putting that out there for Eddie Yenborg. You could see him and then not see him again until the end of the next SHL season. But pumped to see what he can do.
I'm really excited to see what he can do, especially on the North American ice. Because speaking of found money,
oh yeah,
nobody expected Yenborg to have this kind of season, like this impact offensively. Everybody knew when he was drafted, before he was drafted, he was a royal pain in the ass to play against, big Thomas Holmstrom vibes, and that he's always in and around the net and can, still make some plays and chip in. But he brought a spark offensively that I don't think anybody expected. So I am super curious to see what he does in Grand Rapids because, hey, I hear there's spots available right now.
And I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but as someone who just watched all of the rookies make the Red Wings this year that we didn't expect, I'm not counting Yenborg out of making the Red Wings next season. If his game translates in a way that we think it can, not guaranteeing it, you don't want to put that much pressure on it. And oftentimes you cross that ocean and you play in a different league on different ice, even though you think it should, it doesn't always translate immediately. But he's one of those guys where I think there's a really strong possibility. So I could see him scaring the Red Wings lineup next season. And when we talk a lot about, Todd McClellan's tired of these jerseys, and some guys he's trying to motivate, and some guys he's just communicating, look, they're not cut out for this. There should be a lot of turnover in the Red Wings forward depth, and he could be one of the guys filling that in, which doesn't mean a trade and it doesn't mean a contract. So could work.
Heck of a calendar year for him, right? Now he signs his entry-level deal, gets his feet wet a little bit in North America. We'll see how that stint goes. And yeah, there's been a referendum on the jerseys for Detroit. So if he shows well and comes into camp with a little bit more muscle added, I don't think there's anyone off the table to make the bottom 6 on the Red Wings next year.
More positive news from the Red Wings prospect pipeline. Deeply unsurprising, but Max Plant and Trey Augustine both move on in the Hobey Baker voting. They are among the top 10. So they are moving on in that process to the best collegiate players in America this season. So unsurprising again, but really great with Max Plant being one of the most talented Red Wings forward prospects in the pipeline remaining in terms of what he can bring. And then Trey Augustine being, right there in terms of where Sebastian Cosse is as a potential goalie of the future. Trey Augustine, who we expect will sign with Grand Rapids. I know with the whole college loophole, and you can wait that out, there have been people who have asked over time, and every time we dig into it, I know Sean Shapiro's dug into it too. It's every indication is that Trey Augustine is intending to sign, and so will sign and be with Grand Rapids hopefully soon in terms of getting that process started. But for now, just recognized for a great season. Also named to the overall Big Ten team and wins Big Ten goaltender of the year as well. NHL news. Oh God, where to start? Feels like there's been a lot. Why don't we start with some of the names in terms of guys who could be available later before we get into the funny stuff, which often has to revolve around the Leafs. But some names that have been out there to different degrees. Matthias Michelli with Toronto. There's been conversations that they might let him walk as an RFA and not qualify him this summer. Certainly wasn't a Marner replacement the way some fans delusionally would have hoped, but his underlings are quite good, and that's a team where everything kind of looks like it sucks right now. Curious about him as a depth option. We've talked about Alex Tuch before. He's still not signed, and it still seems like he wants a big number. But as the cap keeps going up, I'm wondering, do you stomach a 10.5 for him, considering if you can't, get Robert Thomas done this summer? Is that a guy you try to bring in? And then Mason McTavish scratched repeatedly for the Anaheim Ducks. I think there's another anticipated scratch coming up now, healthy scratch. He hasn't had the season he was hoping for him with his big cap hit, with his bitter contract negotiations that kind of went really late, cut a little bit into his preseason time and ability to prep for the regular season. Does he look for a fresh start, and does Anaheim look to move on from him? So those are three names that kind of came up for me over the past few days.
With the three you mentioned, Maselli, soft, pass. We got enough of that. McTavish, I've got time for that. That's a reclamation project that I think would be worthwhile, but it's Pat Verbeek, so the ask is going to be very, very high. He's a guy that I would pay fair market value for, but I'm not going to overpay for because I'm not that confident that the reclamation project would work.
32 points in 61 games so far this year. Last year had 52 in 76.
Alex Tuch, if you had told me even 2 months ago, Alex Tuch is going for $10.5 million in the offseason, I would laugh. Like, you're insane. Nobody in their right mind should pay that. But if these cap projections are to be believed, it's not real. Spend it. Where else are you spending that money? Nobody else is available.
What would you rather complain about? Cap space, which the Red Wings have right now, or giving up more first-round picks for these guys in trade deadlines in future?
Oh, I would do both. I'm going to give up first-round picks to get more guys, but I'm also going to pay Alex Tuch. But there's one guy. After I saw the NHL 3 Stars of the Week, I started doing some digging because it caught me off guard, and I was curious. Do you know? So someone framed it this way. There's 32 teams in the league, which means by definition, there's 96 first-line forwards. So anybody whose production is in the top that, you could argue at least not elite, but first-line caliber. You know who's quietly having a sneaky good season? Alexis Lafreniere.
Oh, he's been great since they got rid of Panarin.
I have a lot of time right now for Alexis Lafreniere because his reputation in New York, despite how good he's been this year, he's not been number one overall pick good.
No.
That doesn't matter to Detroit.
But I think they missed the boat on when they could have done that. Like with Lafreniere, they're only trading him for a king's ransom at this point.
It's Chris Drury. I think it would be a high price. I don't think it would be crazy.
Well, he said a crazy high price on Trocheck.
Yeah, but that's
different positions.
Olympic gold medalist Vincent Trocheck, current 50-plus point scorer Vincent Trocheck. Like,
yeah,
reputation matters a lot in trade talks. We have seen over the years. Trocheck, for every reason you can think of, has an immaculate reputation and hype around him. Lafreniere has had this stigma forever about a bust of a first overall pick. Now, Drury's not so stupid that he won't see the production and especially the 5-on-5 production is where Lafreniere shines, which guess what the Red Wings suck at? Like, I think if you're trading for a top 6 forward in terms of what you would have to give up and contract value, he might be one of the better targets.
Yeah. I think where that conversation's going to end up going is here's the ask for Lafreniere, and it's going to be a lot. Do you just pay a little bit more and go back to the Robert Thomas conversations?
I don't think those return packages will be anywhere close to each other. I
don't think they'll be that close, but I think at some point you're going to be like, well, I'm in for a penny, in for a pound.
Well, that's where I'm at, because my answer to your question would be getting Lafreniere does not preclude me from also going after Robert Thomas.
Both of them on very manageable cap numbers. I think Robert Thomas obviously earning his better than Lafreniere over the course of, the season, but like you could add both of them easily.
I would much rather give up the equivalent of 5 first-round picks for both of them with their contracts, their term, than I would just paying Alex Tuch.
I don't think that gets it done. 5 first-round equivalents? I don't think that gets it done. That might not even get it done for Robert Thomas.
67 first-round equivalents, Brad?
Yes.
Sorry for even making that joke.
But
no, I honestly think that's what St. Louis was asking for.
And look, unless the prices come down and they actually realize that I don't even know if St. Louis really wants to give up Robert Thomas. They're like, hey, it's going to cost you a fortune. We're not all that interested, but if someone is willing to bite, we'll do it.
Yeah, we talked about it at trade deadline time. It looks like they were, ready to listen, but it was only in case someone wanted to spend a record-setting amount of picks and prospects, which in general in the NHL, I would say more teams sell for less than they should than teams buy for more than they should at like the top end of players. Certainly guys get overpaid for who are like down the lineup, but when you look at top end players, the deals never really feel as big as they should be. And it looks like St. Louis was saying, from everything that we heard, yeah, it either has to be like a record-breaking amount of return or we just have no motivation to do it. And they don't. Like, they have him under contract. You can rebuild with him as a fixture. He's plenty young to be able to be on the other side of a rebuild and still be, your top center. So we'll see how that goes in the summer. But yeah, not a bad shout, Brad, with Lafreniere. We'll see what New York does. They're a weird team. We got to talk. I know we mentioned a little bit about the Gudas hit on Matthews more to the end of the Department of Player Safety, which God will not get into that today. But we didn't even talk too much about the response to that and the fallout from that. Oh my God. It might just be because we're used to it, but Gudas hit Matthews and there's just no response. I think, was it Nylander? They asked him and he was like, oh, I didn't see it at first. And you go to the replay and he was the first guy to see it. And no one on the ice really, like, they didn't do anything. And there's been reports, Ellie Freeman has reported that Brad Treliving was like livid. Apparently there's reports that he was calling guys, like he wasn't there, he was out scouting and he was calling players to give him a piece of his mind. Matthews was already like, they weren't sure what his plans were to extend when time comes for his contract. And now is there an emotional fallout from this to say like, this team sucks and I just got my knee blown up and no one did anything about it? Toronto's vibes went from the basement to like they were that crazy mining lady on Instagram and they just dug a mine in their own basement.
What a call out.
I love her. She's insane.
I saw a comment from her, why are you doing this? And she's like, at this point, I don't even know.
That's the Toronto Maple Leafs. Why are you out here playing hockey right now? I don't even know.
Hey, if this is the first domino in the series that ends up with Austin Matthews signing in Detroit in free agency, hell yeah. But, I mean, we've had this conversation a million times with the Red Wings. Don't keep failing the punk test. And this is, as far as NHL standards go, the ultimate punk test. Not only did one of your guys get run, it was an obviously dirty play by an obviously dirty player to your captain. If that happened to Dylan Larkin and all four other, I'll say five, including the goalie, aren't absolutely trying to fill this guy in within 3 seconds, I want them all off the team. You know what I mean?
Brad, I want the first two rows of the stands to be crawling over the glass like they're zombies. Like
literally,
David Perron has already proven that he will do this, so be careful what you wish for.
But yeah, this is, the hockey code we've all agreed is necessary and stupid. But this is the most hockey codiest code imaginable. Your captain gets cheap shotted.
And you're not even making the playoffs. You have nothing to lose.
Get suspended. Artem Zub the guy for all, anything. William Nylander is not going to win a fight against Radko Gudas. I understand William Nylander not skating up to Radko Gudas and going, hey, man, you're going to fight me now, because Gudas would turn Nylander into dust. But if you're William Nylander, you go up, and I'm not saying in the teeth or anything, but you give him the cross-check to end all cross-checks. You take the suspension if you have to. You take the game misconduct. Just do anything.
Dylan Cousins watched his captain. It looked like take a hit up high. That wasn't what happened, but that's what he thought. He got high sticked by
himself.
Or I was trying to find the guy who did this. But Dylan Cousins saw that, and he saw Simon Edvinsson, and he did not hesitate to go and get his face fed. Like, he got his teeth kicked in a fight. It wasn't that, he didn't get bloodied or anything, but he lost that fight decidedly, and he didn't hesitate. That's what you're supposed to do.
And why is everyone all fired up? This is I'm the least surprised.
That's why I was kind of shocked too, but I'm like, I don't know.
Why is everyone so upset? And I saw on social media, people are like, oh, remember the Leafs of the 90s? And there's Wendell Clark on a fan in the second row just feeding him his lunch. It's like, I feel like, am I watching do I know a different Leafs team than like everybody else? Like, of course there was no response. This is just how they are.
Someone made a mixtape, and it was an embarrassingly long mixtape of the Leafs not responding to moments like this. Like, this is their culture.
This is who they are. And you know how I talked about how many fingers do you have on the panic button? Well, how many fingers does Austin Matthews have on the door to leave Toronto? I think he added a few. Like, think of it as like a player yourself. Like, how would you be able to walk back into a room as the captain knowing that people don't have your back? Like,
that's tough.
I don't know.
And you know, some of it is actually funny because some of the mixtape is him hanging around scrums and not picking up guys too. So
he's certainly not excused. He's part of the culture, especially as the captain. So
the rot runs deep there, man. You can feel it. We always say when you're in that arena, you can feel it.
You just know. And now that there's been no response, like, teams take notice of that stuff. Like, you're gonna get a little bit more because players know they can get away with it.
The Toronto Maple Leafs could go find a Dominik Shine and pay him $8 million a year, and it might not be a bad idea. Like, compared to the Leafs and passing the punk test, the Red Wings look like the Florida Panthers compared to the Leafs.
They look like the Broad Street Bullies.
It is unbelievable how that team gets everything wrong, you know, in terms of roster decisions, it feels like, and making the most of the great opportunity they had over the last decade plus. But even the little easy things, like all the toss-ups, like, hey, how have you been beat year in and year out? It's in times like this where teams come together and become a team and galvanize and just, you know, they back each other. You have the firepower to have the offense and everything like that, but it's just, how do you become a winning team? And then they look at that and how those teams beat them, and they're like, there's probably a lesson in there somewhere, but there's just no way to discern this. Let's go change absolutely nothing about the way we are. And if you think of all coaches, Craig Berube would be a guy who could instill that in them. And he's losing his mind, Craig Berube.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, I don't know what else. Just like, what am I supposed to do?
He can't wait to get fired.
We're going to have to tell him that Inception was a documentary, because he think that would be his only strategy to get in these guys' heads to teach them the right thing to do. Like,
what happened with Sheldon Keefe before, right? Remember that end of season press conference where he basically just like said our team is ass?
Yeah.
And he got fired the next day. Like,
go down swinging, I guess.
And then Kyle Dubas is like, hey, Kyle, do you want to come back? I'll have to talk to my fan. Like, the easiest toss-up answer ever. And you can see why all these guys on the way out are just like, yeah, I'm done.
There's some hilarious parallels to draw here that make me believe we're in the upside down, because there was a very similar situation to this recently in the NHL where a team's star player and captain got viciously cheap-shotted in the middle of a game, but that team, being the model of the NHL right now, responded with like 100 penalty minutes the rest of the game and won the game. Yes, the Toronto Maple Leafs need to be more like the Buffalo Sabres.
Oh, the Buffalo is crazy.
They were like, the one picture of when Hagel he was still kind of over top of Dahlin, and then Josh Doan was there like, he had the look on his face like, I'm going to enjoy this. As he's getting ready to grab Hagel.
I have so much time for their blue and gold setup, but can we talk about how much extra like badass that entire scene was? The fact that they were wearing their black, red, and white goat head jerseys.
Yes, it worked so well.
They just they needed to be wearing that. Toughest. And that was the same team that watched Milan Lucic destroy their organization by way of blowing up their goaltender, and no one did anything about it.
And then reporters asked the Sabres about like, hey, what's with this newfound camaraderie? And wasn't the answer like, we just go out and drink beer together now?
Hell yeah.
A few small beers. That's the strategy. That's the best picture strategy.
But genuinely, the best teams, that's how they're wired. That is genuinely how they're wired.
They're brothers out there.
Yep.
And it does not look like the Leafs are. So for probably the 50th episode this season,
we got to be careful here, because I don't think the Red Wings are too far off where the Leafs are at right now. They have a couple guys saving them from being that, but they have a lot of guys.
They're far away from the Leafs, but they are on the scale, I would say, a titch closer to the Leafs than they are to the Sabres.
I wouldn't say a titch. I'd say substantial, but yeah.
They've improved.
They've come a long way.
They've gotten better. Perron's helped. Sherratt's been good for it.
Edvinson's a goon.
Edvinsson has really become that guy, which I appreciate. Even like Shine, like if he's going to be like this every game, there's 3 players on the Red Wings that I have him ahead of for next season.
Love
Make
it.
him a regular, and it's an improvement, which what a statement to make.
We have so much other NHL news. I'm going to very quickly, we'll talk about the World Cup in a future episode, but that was confirmed. 8 teams, 2 groups of 4. And thank goodness the semifinals and finals are going to be NHL playoff style overtime rules, which is perfect. The round robin is going to happen in Prague and Calgary, 2 very similar cities.
Yes.
And the semifinals and finals are going to be happening in Edmonton. So that's a nice progression there of,
Somehow got worse.
But that's how that one's going to play out. 8 teams. As of right now, I think from the messaging from the NHL, they predict that it's not going to include Russia unless, the stance changes or the war in Ukraine changes. Not going to get into all that, especially not right now. But so you would imagine the 8 teams are going to be something like Canada, USA, Sweden, Finland, Czechia, Slovakia, Germany, Switzerland.
Sure.
Feels right.
To that effect, we'll see how it all shakes out. But
Sorry, Marco.
we'll see how things progress. But yeah, we'll touch more on the importance of that. One more Canadian team I want to talk about because the vibes are bad there right now. Leon Draisaitl in Edmonton out for the rest of the regular season. All the reporting about Tristan Jarry, and surprise, surprise, he's worse than what they had with Skinner, and they actually traded assets for him. And he can't get comfortable with the team was the most generous wording I saw reported. There's times where he's out there, I'm like, with all the shots going back and forth in the media, I'm like, I'm not sure he likes his teammates and his teammates like him. Like,
You wouldn't be able to stop those shots either. Man, the amount of stare downs he does to Darnell Nurse is just insane. I mean, yeah.
fair.
But it's the body language and the performances are just so horrific. I don't know. Is there like a Razzies, like an anti-GM of the year award? Because somehow you went from Stuart Skinner and downgraded via trade?
This is one of those remarkable incidents where the trade was immediately bad. The second it was made, everybody went, that's awful. And at 2 separate points since then, it has gotten worse. Pittsburgh trades Kulak for a good haul, and Tristan Jarry's horrible.
Stuart Skinner's been good in Pittsburgh.
Edmonton has gone from GM who made terrible signings and trades in Chiarelli to Ken Holland, who made, for the most part, some pretty terrible signings and deals, to Stan Bowman, who had a pedigree coming in. It's not like he had the ability and lost it. He had the pedigree for terrible signings and trades. How on earth do you as an organization make these decisions? If the Edmonton Oilers had, call it Brisebois, or think of your most average GM in the NHL, a guy you forget's even a GM. If they had him for all of these years of Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, they were a goal away, a period away, a game away from winning the Stanley Cup. They made the Cup finals twice against the same team. They lost twice against the same team. A competent GM, and they have at least a cup right now, right?
You could grab any random fan wearing a jersey downtown Edmonton, and I could have a conversation about how they would maybe make better roster decisions.
And they would have a long conversation with you.
Oh, yeah.
About their feelings, because it's like everyone understands exactly what's wrong.
It's so simple. Like, it's so simple that you think you would just go and execute the strategy, but they just like get in their own way and can't evaluate even like mediocre level talent.
This is one of
They're
those...
lucky Toronto's stupid and let them take Zach Hyman.
Yeah.
This is one of those moments where one of my favorite tweets of all time is extremely relevant, from Micah Blake McCurdy, where he had a tweet going, there's NHL owners out there who could pay me $2 million a year to stand behind their GM, and 5 times a year I'd just say, don't do that, and I'd be worth every penny.
You'd
This
go
is
through
literally true.
I feel like sometimes you'd go through those 5 no's in a week.
Yes. Yeah.
No, you mean no.
Shoot, yeah. Oh, man, I'm qualified to be the Oilers GM. Holland signed Darnell Nurse to a $9.25 million contract, which at the time was terrible. We called it terrible at the time. Everyone called it terrible at the time. And the reason you're going to get away from that contract probably isn't because you're going to deal him, because I don't know that they can. It's because the cap is going to go up enough where it goes from absolutely atrocious, it is hindering this team from being able to ice a competitive roster in the playoffs, to, this is just a normal bad contract, but, we can stomach it. He is on year 4 of 8 of that contract, and you had to have the salary cap catch up and make it look decent before you could work here. They can't GM their way into a good lineup, and they sure as hell can't GM their way out of a bad lineup. Like,
it's not even about the money. I haven't even talked about Trent Frederick.
8 years for a fourth liner.
That's like my dream contract.
Remember Ross?
Other than being bought out and then playing somewhere else.
Oh, that's your dream. That's the one and then the other. Remember when Ross Johnston, what was it, like a $4 million contract with the Islanders, and we were all like, why would you lock up one guy for 4 years? That makes that signing look like the Zach Hyman contract.
Well, go look at like Edmonton from like 4 years ago. I bet you that roster would beat the current Edmonton Oilers. Like, they let Broberg go, who looks really good. Like, it's just, yeah. The problem is like, if you're an Edmonton fan, it's hard to be optimistic because you don't have any faith that management will get you out of this position, because they've proven through 3 regimes now that it's just not possible. And there you go, watching the greatest player to ever play hockey just waste away.
It's almost depressing. Like, it's happening in the
I'm
West.
mad at I'm a Red Wings fan.
Yeah.
I'm in bed by the time Edmonton plays hockey. Like, it's truly pitiful.
You should be happy about this, because every bad decision they make is one step closer to Connor McDavid hitting free agency.
Every team is just going to line up and just open checkbook. Even if it puts them $30 million over the cap, they're like, we'll figure it out.
And he's, I as much as I hate to say it, I think he goes to Toronto if he leaves.
So he's going to not...
They're going to be in the middle of a rebuild. What are you talking about?
It's comfortable for him. It's
he's
familiar.
never going to win a cup?
He's going to be absolutely ring chasing on that next one.
Oh, yeah.
Utah, after they add Robert Thomas, and certainly will be quieter. Tell that, like, Utah has other things to do. Anyways, okay, we've gone on quite a bit. There's a lot happening in the league, so bodes well for future content, but hopefully there's so much relevant Red Wings hockey that we don't get to talk about any of this until the offseason.
We're going to be either really, really happy on Sunday or really, really sad.
No, we're going to be really, really happy, or prospect profiles.
Which is really, really sad.
With that, let's take another quick break, and when we're back, overtime.
We're going to overtime.
Overtime is brought to you by JP Wiser's, the official Canadian whiskey of the Detroit Red Wings. You can see those 2 beautiful bottles, these special edition Red Wings bottles sitting on the table there. So excited to have JP Wiser's back as a sponsor, and thank you to them for bringing us overtime. Our Patreon supporters get their questions read out on overtime, patreon.com/wingedwheelpodcast. If you want to support the show and join the Dub Club, in addition to having comments read out on overtime, either on the main show or in the bonus episode, you get access to benefits like our bonus overtime episodes where we let loose, we have fun, you get outtakes. You're going to might put in a blooper from the intro to the show as Evan fought a losing battle against a box of Kleenex. It's a little unhinged, but it's a good time. You also get access to our Patreon exclusive Discord, and you're automatically entered into all of our giveaways. For example, we give away 2 tickets to every Detroit Red Wings home game going directly to our Patreon supporters. So again, patreon.com/wingedwheelpodcast. Questions from our patrons. Finnie the Pooh says, what happened to Mason Appleton this season? At the start of the season, he seemed like he cared way more and just seemed way more effective. Did the jerseys break him? You know what? When Appleton got signed, my thought was, he's a depth guy, good for winning shifts defensively, but he's not going to bring you a lot of offense. And watching him in Winnipeg, it just felt like a lot of offensive plays died on his stick as they asked him to do more than he was able to do offensively there. And then start of the season, I was like, oh man, egg on my face. He's showing way more offensively than I anticipated. And then he went into, what we expected, which is that he's just a depth guy who's going to not lose his shifts at worst on defense in your depth roles, but bring in next to nothing offensively. And that's largely what Appleton's been, a flash here and there. I don't think he's one of the problems by any means, but he certainly doesn't move the needle to fix what ails the Red Wings depth forwards, which is they need guys who can score. It's just not going to be him.
Almost by definition does make him the problem, though.
Who would you rather have, Appleton or Rasmussen?
Okay, come on now.
But that's what I mean. Like, it's
Would you rather have a Ferrari or Rock?
it's my
How
rock.
nice, how shiny is the rock?
It's a
Doesn't
rock.
matter.
It's like neither one of those guys are Ferraris, but yeah, Appleton is who we expected him to be. The surprise and the fun is over. You can't have too many Appletons in your depth, which was the criticism at the time of the deal. It's like, yeah, fine enough player, but
They've got 9 of him already, which has shown true.
and for the record, I'd keep him over a lot of them. Joseph Barry says, how do you guys feel about Kane's chances of coming back another year? He's got the record now, and he's clearly showing signs of slowing down. Is this it for Kane?
Kane could drop off by 15 points next year, and they still can't afford to lose that much offense.
Sad. Like every year, I'm like, I want Kane to come back, and I want him to have a smaller role. And every year, Kane comes back, and he somehow has a bigger role, which is bad, and they need to address that. But that's not a Kane problem. So I think he comes back. This is my prediction.
He has 40 points in 53 games.
Yeah.
Red Wings cannot afford to lose Patrick Kane.
Taro Hirosi's Taco Club says, I think trading Soderblom will be a mistake down the road, but I hope to be wrong. With track record that it is with Yzerman's pro scouts, I'm not convinced. Anyways, a long-time listener, and I want to say I love listening to the show. When I'm stressing, it really helps me chill out. I'm sure I'm not alone in that, but I just want to thank you for being there for the listeners. Well, I'm happy our complete bullshit helps you not stress out. So thank you for the kind words and appreciate you tuning in for so long. We think you're insane, but, thanks for hanging out with us. As for Soderblom, I mean, we've seen this a million times. Like, we've seen this for the Red Wings with Soderblom. We saw it with Berggren when he went to St. Louis. Like, he's a perfectly capable forward who has this ability, but the problem has never been doing this and producing in small stints. It's producing at a steady clip. I don't think he's on Pittsburgh's first line.
He's
long term.
24 years old and had 1 goal or something like that before the Red Wings traded him. He is what he is at this point, and there will be moments, but there were moments in Detroit, and I think the jerseys comment, he was one of the prime targets for it when McClellan said it.
Yeah, don't sell him short. 2 goals this season in 39 games.
Oh,
yeah. So
positive heater.
It's hard because, you don't want to cheer against the guy, but he's just one of those guys where it's like there's having the tools and there's putting it together, and that's most of what makes an NHL player is putting it together. There's way more people than people think that have NHL level toolkits in the world, but there are way fewer than people think that can put it together at an NHL level.
And I think the Red Wings probably held on longer than they typically would have with a player like Soderblom because they saw some flashes and he's 6'8". They're like, if we can get this guy to play at least a little bit more physical, maybe he can cement a future here. But it just never was going to happen, and the consistency just wasn't there.
Seider, I barely know her, says these next few games are going to be an indicator of if the Red Wings have what it takes to do anything in the playoffs and if they do make it in. These are must-win games. Do you guys think the Wings can realistically lose any of the next few games against Atlantic teams and still make the playoffs?
Could probably get away with losing to Montreal, but that's about it.
I think as much as it's not fun to say, the math makes it work where if you don't lose more than a point of ground to any of those teams on any given night, technically speaking, you can lose all 3 games and still make it, but it's just not likely.
It becomes much more difficult.
But yeah, if you don't lose more than a point of ground, you can technically go 0-3 over these next few games and still...
500 points percentage. That's pretty good.
Yeah, right? Like, it won't be fun because you'll lose 3 times, but...
And all the opponents around them will have a 1,000 points percentage.
Somehow even more. P.S. Excited to see you all live on Winged Wheel Podcast Night. Excited to see you there. Jack's dad says, if the Wings miss out on the playoffs this year, do you think Yzerman opens the door on moving Larkin? Is there enough value there to package him with other high-value assets to get a true bona fide star? Who would you target if that were the case, and what do you think it would cost? It's just so hard to get a guy of Larkin's caliber that I just can't see it. Evan said earlier in the show, and it might have been frustrating to hear, but if the Red Wings miss the playoffs with 99 points or 98 points or whatever, then it's like, how many other years is that? Way more than enough, right? So you don't trade away Dylan Larkin for that reason. That said, if there's like some kind of mind-blowing offer out there, then I could see an insane world where you make a swap in like a Thomas deal or something crazy, but that's more of an NBA type thing. Like, I don't really think that's poised to happen.
The problem is we think, oh, this year's just an aberration. Like, you get 99 points, miss the playoffs, that's Gary Bettman's fault. But all these teams are going to be really good for the next 5+ years. So I don't want to say like, oh, you're going to need to be a 100-point team to even have a chance to make the playoffs going forward. But there's a reality where that might be the case.
You might honestly be better off asked to be traded to the Pacific Division.
This is one of those instances where I don't even care about the point total at the end of the season. They had an 8-point cushion. That all the points they banked at the beginning of the year, they pissed away. That's the part that
but they were healthy and other teams weren't. Now the Red Wings aren't, and it's kind of all coming to level ground now.
Yeah.
Mind you, I don't think teams are missing 2 of their 4 centermen, 3 of their 4 centermen at times.
4 of their 5 at one point there with Danielson, Rasmussen, Copp.
Every time we observe the status of the Red Wings centermen, a different number are hurt. It somehow only seems to go up. We just made another centerman. The Red Wings had to create another centerman. They went to the crafting table and they just
was actually the raffle at before the game was.
Oh yeah, the 50-50. 50% chance you win money, 50% chance you get a jersey. You're going out there, bud.
We're not, how far away are we before they're just pulling kids out of the intermission shootout to finish the rest of the game?
Yeah, make sure Hank brings his shoulder pads on Saturday. Matthew Solaire says the Calgary game made it feel like the talent of this team demands cheating the defense to generate offense. Seems like they're usually risk averse in the ozone. Do you think giving the green light to guys like Kasper, Aljo, or Edvinsson to try riskier ozone plays, even at a cost of defense, would be a net positive? If you can't get anything else going and you have a steadier defense, which you do now with Falk, and your goaltending is playing well, which it is with Gibson, stands to reason, yeah, because you got to score goals at some point, and we've demonstrated that that's what they have to do. So to some degree, yeah, for sure. All right, we are going to take one more quick break, and when we're back, we're going to give you some housekeeping items, some notes on what's going to happen for Wing Wheel Podcast and at the LCA on Saturday, and wrap up the show back after this. All right, thank you all so much for tuning in. If you are attending Winged Wheel Podcast and at the LCA, you're going to get an email from the Red Wings at some point this week, and it's going to have all the details of what to do, where to go, how to access the live show and get your hat and stuff. But just as a little preview, the doors to the Budweiser Beer Garden are going to open at 4:15 p.m. That is the entrance off of Sprout Street. That's kind of where you want to go to, and the Beer Garden is an indoor-outdoor venue, so just keep an eye on the weather and dress accordingly. But 4:15 is what we're targeting for doors open. You are going to be sent either Friday night or Saturday morning a ticket to the same account that has your event ticket, and that's going to be your voucher that'll get you into the live show and will get you your co-branded hat. 4:45, we're hoping the podcast will start around there, and then the arena doors are going to open by 6:30 p.m. so you can go in and go to the game. So that's what you are looking at for a rough timeline. And if you want to get your tickets, there's still some available, wingedwheelpodcast.com/Red Wings. So thank you all so much for tuning in. We'll see how we feel on Sunday. It could be a great episode or it could be a pretty tired one. But in any case, we're looking forward to the next 2 games. We're looking forward to Winged Wheel Podcast night at the LCA, seeing you all there. Thank you to the sponsors of the Winged Wheel Podcast, JP Weisers, Tempo, Hims, all of our sponsors of the show. Thank you to our Patreon supporters, patreon.com/wingedwheelpodcast if you want to support the show. And if you want to help us out, but Patreon's not for you, just leave us a rating or a review wherever you get your podcasts. The thumbs up, the heart, the stars, tell a friend about the show. That helps a ton. Just subscribe. If you can subscribe, be it YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, those are all ways that you can really support us and help us out. To our name level supporters on Patreon, we cannot thank you enough. Arjun Shankar, Aikfer, Martin Norberg, THL Champ, Samuel Soderholm, Klaus Sorensen, Glenn Brabham, Rain Dano, Matthew M. Rice, Darby Q, Sea Lion, Detroit Style, Deep Dish Cider, Bingo Bango, Hassam Al Qassem, Asher Killian, Kaylin Wood, Alex Toger, That's What I Appreciate About You, Derek Enstam, Matt McKay, Andy Hardcore, Sam Bankston, Citizen High Five, Aaron Hudson, Admiral Matt S. at the Cheesebag Navy, Evan Falksinger, Stephen Ortlieb, Jonathan Miller, Give Blood Fight Probert, DJ Denton, Caro, Lieutenant Aluski, Nate, Why Don't You Call Anymore, Rick, Jay Gollum, Settlers of Catan Stan, John Engels, Alex Benilla, CB55, Connor Scovey, Adam Zuiza, Adam Rose, Denny's Gamer Girl, Steve R, Hockeytown Matt, Mr. Kuzi, Chaotic Monkey, Craig Kibble, Iserplan Stan, Clip Clop Nene, Podgy713, Unapologetic Gibson Truther, Griffin Not From Grand Rapids, Winter Knight, Marty, Kazi the OG13, Jeff Pridemore, Eric Hill, Butts Carlton, Best James Bond, Beer League Legend, Alec, Mark Hernandez, Slim Smitty Cards, Grand Rapids Girly, Anna Sleeman, William, Mike Asher, August, Brian Munn, Improved But Flawed, Chris 99 Jones, Trevor Centerfit, Adams Red Wings Takes, Kurt Chin, Adam Ernie Slander, Kachuk Brothers Walk to Church, Larkin #1 Fan, Colin White, Donnie Brook, General Andy Bohan of the Cheesebag Army, Quaz, Jill Larkin Trade Sacrifice, congrats to Ryan and producer Mel, thank you very much, Richard Scout for Harambe, Banana is Larger, Matt Keeler, Linda Hull, Connor Layton, Good Cop, Brad Cop, Josh Yelton, Brad Simmons, Darren Fick, Bex, The Hodag, The Hat 123, Dear Ryan, congratulations on the sex. Sincerely, Reed. Thanks, Reed. 200-foot high compete, Maximilian, Commander Ben Bear of the Cheeseback Space Force, Sandin-Pellikka's Pet Pelican, Griffey Boy, JM Rhapsody, Frank Stanley, Rosie Posey, That Other Guy, Pucking Puck Puck, Tom Iserplan Respector, Carl Thames, Nerno, Stephen A. Ron, Corey Prida, All Motor No Hands, Gene Sullivan, Stinky Britches, James Pridemore, Upernadian, Drop the Puck, Eric Nance, Ann Stanislavski, Jim, Bellingham Massey Balls, Peter Swanson, our good friend Wings fan in St. Louis, Scott, Lucas Raitmond, Thick David, Trent Thorough, Grepsky, Evan Beckner, C.E. Hayes, Finnie to the Rafters, Jacob Marsh, Falkness, Fight Night at the Joe, Axel's Sandy Pelican, The Octopi's Ninth Flag, Finnie the Pooh, A.G. the OG, I'm Evan, you're Evan, we're all Evan, Richard Wasmith, Cassidy Hart, Lion, L. Johnson, Ramson, Koshaba, Ryan Caputa, and your second favorite patron. Thank you all so very much. See you at Winged Wheel Podcast Night.
Thanks for tuning in to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Be sure to visit wingedwheelpodcast.com, where you'll find links to subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. You'll also find ways to support the show, like Patreon, official podcast merchandise, and more. And don't forget to follow us on X at Winged Wheel Pod, at Ryan Hanna, WWP, at Brad Crisco, and at Hockeytown Evan, as well as Winged Wheel Podcast on Instagram.